Welcome to the shop. Today we're going to talk about sharpening. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I went through with sharpening, and some of you have probably been through the same thing. Some traditional sharpening methods and whether I still use them or not, whether they're any good. And we'll move on to what I'm doing now. So I have a drawer over to my left over here near the sink where I have a whole big drawer full of traditional sharpening stones and jigs for honing and all that kind of stuff. Everything from diamond stones to water stones, slip stones for getting inside of curved gouges, things like that, whole array of those things. All of this stuff works. It's just going to depend on how much time you want to put into it. Also, these things get expensive. You don't buy just one grit. You're buying different grits, so you have a series of grits, either in diamond stones or water stones or anything else that you may be using, oil stones. So the cost tends to add up. So I'm not saying that they don't work. They do work. It's just a little on the slower side. If that's what you enjoy doing, stick with it. No problem. I found a little quicker method that I'm using today that seems to work a lot better for me. And it's all about getting back to your project. We don't want to spend a lot of time sanding, sharpening, all that stuff. We want to do woodworking. So that's traditional by hand type stuff. I've also done other things with MDF on a mandrel, kind of using it like a work sharp. And these work, but limitedly. Well, this particular one with the green rouge, believe it or not, does not work as good as what I'm going to show you, even though you're still using green rouge. So what I'm doing now, if it's a three-step process. First, you have rough grinding if the tool needs it. If the tool needs rough grinding, you would start with anything from a grinding wheel, maybe CBN, diamond, round wheel like this. This one, you can buy these on Amazon. They're round discs and they come in different grits. The one I use is 120. It seems to work best for everything. And it has a 1/2 inch center diameter. So you can take a 1/2 inch bolt, put a washer and nut on it, or 2 washers and a nut, and then you can chuck it up in your drill press, and you can use this similar to a work sharp. You can also use a belt sander or anything else that will give you a rough grind. I've been using this and it's worked out really well for me. So if the tool needs rough grinding, I use this. Then From there, I go to let me just set this aside for a second. I go to this wheel here. This is a Amicupid fiber wheel. This is a 6-inch with a 1/2-inch arbor. It's 180 grit, and the hardness is 9P. You'll see it here, 9P. I do believe they make other hardnesses, but the 9P I found works, so this is what I've been using. This is the intermediary step between rough grinding and polishing with a cloth wheel that I'll show you. All right, so this is step number 2. You can buy this on Amazon. Now, this is the second one that I bought, and I think because I've shared this with other people, it kind of maybe bought them out a little bit, because this one took me 3 weeks to get. So just be patient if you run into that. The next step is this loose buffing wheel. This one I got off of Amazon. It's called an NK 6-inch buffing wheel. Has a 1/2-inch arbor. The key to this is, I'll open it up. The key to this is that it's loose sewn. It's not, some of them are sewn around in sequential order, and they're tight. You know, they're compressed. And that works okay, but this one is the one that you want. This one conforms to the tool and works really, really well. This is the one that I use, and this is the one I suggest that you get. All right, so this is for final buffing. Now, when I first started using this method, I used a green rouge. And then I used a number of different pastes. Here we have Tormek paste, Flitz. I've used all kinds of different ones, different kinds of rouges. But what I've settled on and what works best is this Mother's mag and aluminum polish. And I simply, rather than charging the wheel, I simply dip the tool in it. It's kind of liquidy. Kind of dip the tool in it and then take it to the buffing wheel. Now, as I said, I originally started with one wheel, and I would start with the green rouge, and then I would kind of clean it a little bit and then move on to the Mother's. What I'm doing now is I've taken an inexpensive buffer and I've put 2 of these on it. One, I just strictly use the green, and then the other one, the final step, is with the Mother's. Okay? So this will all make sense when I actually show you how all this gets put together. I'm just showing you now what I'm using, and so you have a good understanding of it, and you will know what to buy if you're interested. Okay. Now, rough grinding, again, you can use the diamond wheel. These are inexpensive. These are about, I don't know, $10 or $12, something like this. This is not expensive either, the fiber wheel, and I'll explain how I kind of figured this out in a little while. This wheel is about $10. If you don't want to buy the diamond wheel, You can get you a piece of MDF and put some kind of sandpaper to it. You know, it would be similar to kind of the scary sharp method. Now, I have found that nothing works as good as this loose buffing cloth. I have used MDF with green rouge on it, and it works, but not as good as the other. And it doesn't conform to your gouge, so it's just not as good. I've used leather, power stropping leather. It, again, just doesn't, here's another one. It just doesn't work as good. And this is all through trial and error and what works best. What I've found works best anyway. So, all right, setting aside all of the stuff that you traditionally know, we're going to move on to what I'm doing. Again, let's kind of start all over, because when I did the workshop for SAFM, I explained this, and then I got quite a few questions later on by email, and I think there was some misunderstandings because I didn't actually do it in front of them. I made a video about it, and I did that because where I was doing the class, I didn't think that I would have access to the products that I just showed you. So we'll go over all that. But again, you're going to assess your tool, your carving tool. This will work for, actually works for plane irons, works for straight chisels, works for carving tools, gouges, V-tools, all of those. Any type of sharpening like that, this works for. So again, you're going to, if you get, say, a vintage tool, you're going to assess the tool. You're going to look at it and see what it needs. Does it need a rough grind? That's the first question. Does it need a rough grind? Does it have a jagged edge? Is it straight, or if you want the tool to have a little bit of curve to it, does it have it? Once you answer those questions, you will or you will not go to rough grinding. Again, you can use a diamond, circular diamond disc like what I'm showing you here, or you can use a stone that normally comes with your grinder, or a belt sander, or anything like that. The main thing I want to emphasize when you're rough grinding and when you're using this fiber wheel is you cannot overheat the tool. The only thing that you can do wrong is overheat your tool. If you overheat the tool, you'll damage the temper and you'll have to start all over. Particularly if you're doing it and you see blue on the edge or anything like that, that means you've overheated the tool and you're going to have to grind past that point and basically start all over again. So make sure that as you're doing, the diamond doesn't seem to heat the tool up very much. This fiber wheel will heat it up, and the buffing will heat it up. So just have a can of water or something and dip and cool the tool off, pretty often. Keep it cool. Don't get in a hurry. Don't try and go too fast. All right, so once you have your rough grind, then you're going to go to this fiber wheel here. Now, the fiber wheel is friable. That means stuff is going to come off of it. It just flies off a little bit. So make sure that you wear eye protection. I even wear a face shield just to make sure that nothing gets into my eyes, and you'll be fine. Once you get your second grind with this 180 grit fiber wheel. Then you're going to move on to your loose sewn cotton wheel with green rouge on it. And then you're going to move to another one with your mother's mag polish. Now, the important thing is, a lot of times you cannot tell whether you get the geometry on the carving gouge perfect. In essence, what I'm saying is you have to have, in order to have a sharp edge, you have to have one surface meeting another at a distinct point. With the naked eye, you cannot see that edge sometimes. Now, if it's kind of flat, you will actually see it. So you want to dip your tool, look at it. You want to look and see if you see a flat spot. If you see a flat spot, keep going. All right. When you don't see it any longer, then you're going to want to move to the polishing and buffing. If, when you're done with the buffing, it doesn't cut the way you want, there's something wrong with the grind. So I would suggest looking at the tool. Hold on one second, I'm going to show you what helps. I have a set of magnifiers that you can actually get down and really look at the edge of the tool. But again, if you don't see it, just assume that the edge is not where it should be and go back to either the grinding wheel or the fiber wheel. Okay? The fiber wheel or your grinding wheel. And I'm going to show you the steps, but this is an invaluable tool, not just for sharpening, but for all kinds of work. My contention is if I can see it really sharp and clean, really close up, then when somebody looks at my work with a naked eye, they're never going to see anything. It's going to look pristine and good. So all you have to do is follow the process, and I'm going to show that to you in real life. And again, if it doesn't seem, this has been some of the questions I get. Well, I follow the process and it still doesn't cut. Well, again, go back to one of your first steps and either regrind, rough grind, or go back to the fiber wheel and start all over, then go back to the buffer. Now, this seems like quite a process, but it's not. You can go so fast that you'll be amazed. You'll spend, well, depending on how bad it is, you'll spend a couple minutes maybe at the grinder. The fiber wheel, you won't spend probably 30 seconds, and the two buffing wheels, you probably won't spend but 15, 20 seconds, and you're ready to go. Again, I caution you, do not let the tool get overheated. That's the only way any of this will ever hurt your tool. So that is the process, and I'm going to show you the equipment so you know how all this kind of comes together. But I wanted to kind of show you what you need to purchase. Really, when you stop and think about it, if you have a drill press, you can buy this 120 diamond disc, this fiber wheel, and two of these loose cloth wheels. I mean, you're talking $30 or maybe a little more. You probably already have the green rouge, and you'll have to buy the mothers. The mothers, I think, is $10 or $15. I'm not sure. So anyway, I mean, one Sharpen stone, if you've ever bought any of those, you know what they cost. So I'm not saying that you'll never use it, but for most of the sharpening that I do, carving tools, chisels, bench planes, this system that I'm going to show you works. And it's so fast, gets you right back to your work. You might think that using this loose buffing wheel will curl the edge of, or blunt the edge of your tool. It won't. I'll show you. I'll put significant amount of pressure on here, and it gives you a nice straight, sharp tool. So let's move on to the other room where I have the grinders, and I'll actually show you how I evaluate some vintage tools that I just purchased, and I'll show you the process of what I go through, and hopefully by the end of this you'll have a good understanding of how this goes. All right?